Tonight, we've got a really ambitious program tonight. I'm really appreciative of all the people in the community that have come out to hear the presentations. And, you know, the number of the environmental and community groups in this area have been concerned for a long time about some of the stresses on our environment and the threat to the water resources of our area. And a number of us in water and other groups decided that a forum like this would be a really wonderful way to have all the different groups involved in these struggles to give a short presentation and to start opening up a community dialogue on how we should be responding to this, what are some of the issues that are important to people, and just get the discussion and activism rolling again on these issues. So tonight we've got sort of a big program and we're going to try and fit it all in. We have 5 different groups and each organization will have a 10-minute presentation. And just so we can finish all the presentations, we're going to give all the presentations first before we open it up to discussion. Because if we started discussing after the first one, it might go on too long and we'd never get to the end. So if you have questions, if you have comments, save them to the end. And so each group will get 10-minute presentation, and then we'll open it up to discussion, and just so everyone who wants to can speak, we'll try and call on anyone, has 2 minutes to say, ask questions, make your ideas known, and we'll try and call on everyone first before we call on anyone twice. And then we do need to wrap up around 8:30, so then the library staff and everybody we can close the building by about 9 o'clock. So we've got an ambitious evening tonight, and we want to welcome you all. And I'd like to give thanks to all of the community for all the support that you've given the different organizations, and especially a thanks to our wonderful library for having this space. So tonight we're going to have presentations from the water group, We Advocate Thorough Environmental Review from Geneva, Omann. And she will be splitting her time with Raven Stevens from the Gateway Neighborhood Association, who's also a member of WATER. So they will be splitting their 10-minute presentation.
I'm sorry, who are you?
My name is Bruce Hillman. Oh, I'm just the guy who stands in the front and talks. My name is Bruce Hillman, and I'm the board president of We Advocate Thorough Environmental Review. And following Aniva and Raven, Mark Miyoshi from the Winnemem Wintu tribe will be speaking about some of the issues facing the tribe and some of the issues that they've been active around. Then Diane Lowe from the McCloud Springs Alliance will be speaking about the issues with the development, the potential development of a water bottling plant in McLeod and what the community there has been doing. Then Bob Hall from the Water for Citizens of Weed, California will be speaking about the theft of the weed's water supply by the Roseburg forest products. And then Michelle Berditschevsky will be speaking from the Mount Shasta Bioregional Ecology Center about some of the issues they've been involved in the Medicine Lake Highlands geothermal project and some of the legal strategies and activism they've been doing around that project. So I think without further ado, we've given thanks, we've announced everybody. So, onward and upward. So Geneva, would you like to start? Sure. We Advocate Thorough Environmental Review.
Thank you. I want to use the podium here for my notes, but I want to get a little closer to you also, so try not to roll over Michelle's toes here.
Okay, real quick, I'm going to give the speakers a 7-minute notice and then a 1-minute notice, and that'll end it, okay?
Okay. So I just want to start with a brief history of We Advocate Thorough Environmental Review. Many of you may know this, so I don't want to dwell on it for too long, but for those of you who don't, you'll get a little bit more of our background. So in 2013, the community learned that Crystal Geyser Water Company had purchased the empty Dannon water bottling plant, and they were planning to come in and bottle juices and teas and carbonated flavored waters, and the county was not going to require any kind of an environmental impact study on that plant. And this was after the water bottling plant that was there had a very poor study, very unenforceable mitigations, and had operated for 10 years with negative impacts to the surrounding community. So a group of us got together and rallied to try to get the county to require, or get somebody to require an environmental impact study, either the city or the county. We sued the county over some zoning issues, and before the judge actually ruled in that case, lo and behold, the county and Crystal Geyser announced that they were going to be doing an environmental impact study. So that was a bit of a victory. We participated in that process, the various points where public input is allowed in the CEQA process. We participated in that. We helped to engage the community in participating in that process. A draft environmental impact report came out. We thought it was very deficient. We hired experts and got expert opinions and comments explaining the many ways that study was deficient. Well, the Board of Supervisors accepted it anyway, approved it. We appealed that decision. We appealed the Planning Commission decision and the subsequent Board of Supervisors decision to approve it. And we're in court now, basically. So, lawyers and so on. On May 10th, there was a hearing in Siskiyou County Court over the county case. Some of the issues we brought up, the inadequacies of the EIR, the project description was deficient, AB 52 consideration of tribal resources was pretty much not there, air quality and health risk issues, greenhouse gas emissions, noise impacts, and hydrology impacts and implications, some really problematic aspects to that study. And then on June 7th, there was a case heard. We had sued the Mount Shasta City as well over their approval of an industrial wastewater permit for the plant. And there are issues, failure of the city to make findings and adopt mitigations. There were improper disclosures of chemicals that would be discharged into the sewer system, and again, a lack of consideration of tribal cultural resources. So that was June 7th, and so now the judge has taken all of that evidence presented in the lawyers' briefs, in the arguments before the court, and the 56,000 plus pages of the administrative record under her advisement. We don't know when she will make a ruling. We expect maybe sometime mid to late summer. It's totally at her discretion. So that's where we are with that legal attempt to get Crystal Geyser to really clean up their act or go away. Now, meanwhile, we've been involved in other issues as well. For example, we're participating in the CEQA process and a number of other projects that have been happening in our area. There have been CEQA processes for the city wastewater treatment plant and interceptor sewer upgrade projects. We've commented on the Love's truck stop in Weed, the Freeze car wash that's proposed to go in here in Shasta, the McCloud water bottling project that you'll be hearing more about from Diane, the CPUC with their electrical upgrades here that are very much a requirement of part of the Crystal Geyser project. Although one of our major concerns with that is the fire hazard of those lines. We were really advocating for them to get those lines underground. And also the Shasta Dam raising down near Reading. Significant environmental impacts from that proposed project. So we have been engaging in the CEQA process with that. We'd really like to move in the way of changing the rules for all of this. The Mount Shasta City is going through a review, revision process for the general plan. And we've been participating in that process. We really want to look at what's going to be happening with climate change impacts. You know, this is a proposal that, a plan that would cover throughout 2045. What are going to be the environmental impact challenges in our area? How are we going to ensure that we're protecting our resources here? Can we get that into the general plan so the city, in making its future decisions, will have that as some guiding rules for what's happening? We've been participating in those discussions. There hasn't really been a lot of discussion, though, about climate change and what those impacts will be here. If anyone has any experience in any kind of city planning and would be interested in working with us and the city to try to make that general plan a really strong plan for our communities, we'd be grateful to have that. We've been working with the mountain runners and the city to try to get a water bottle refill station in the heart of downtown Mount Shasta. We're collaborating with other groups regionally and statewide to try to promote, again, water policies that are going to be protective of our water resources. So there's a GNO groundwater collaborative that we're working with at the state level, and with the regional water action group here in our region to try to influence how state funding is utilized in our area for the benefit of the citizens. We're also really want to start promoting the elimination of single-use plastics. This is one of the big problems with the Crystal Geyser plant, a lot of plastic waste. And you can maybe ask me more about that in the question and answer period if you're interested. And I'll maybe tell you anyway. So I'll go ahead and let Raven take the floor and tell you a little bit about some of the other things that are going on around the GNA.
They're not having any bottled water at the run. It's going to be all reusable. So Raven Stevens from the Gateway Neighborhood Association, as Bruce said, I also sit on the board of WA.T.E.R. In 2013, October 2013, when we heard about the announcement about Crystal Geyser, a friend now, Bob Blankenship, helped me set up a groundwater monitoring system around. We have 35 homeowners that began the program. We couldn't test all the wells, but we have quite a large following. The Gateway Neighborhood Association is about approximately 200 to 250 parcels around that plant. And the GNA itself, people that have actually signed up, is about 78 of those. So not everybody is involved, but I can guarantee you if the plant opens, they'll want to be involved at that point. With the groundwater monitoring, what we're trying to do is, we thought we'd be lucky if we got a year's worth of baseline testing before the plant opened. But due to the great work of the community and pushing back Crystal Geyser, we're now into year 6. So we've been testing. We've actually been able to do 23 groundwater monitoring sessions done every quarter. Rain, snow, sleet, whatever, we've been doing them. We're taking that data, we will use it for a nuisance lawsuit if and when the plant opens and neighbors have well issues like they had when Coca-Cola and Dannon were in operation. So we'll be using that material. We're also going to take a look at that data and see how it correlates with precipitation right now. So we're working on that. That's in the works. We've also, WA.T.E.R has put together, with the help of some wonderful GNA members, Dan and Bruce have put in, and Frank have put in air quality monitors in homes surrounding the plant. One of the big things I think most people are surprised about is how bad the air quality is going to be from the plant operation and the trucking. We believe, and our experts believe, that it's going to be a cancer hotspot. And there's child care, there's all kinds of things happening around that area, schools, etc. 2 minutes, Dan. We're going to be testing for PM2 particles and PM10 particles, and those are the small, tiny particles that get into the lungs that cause lung cancer down the road. And we're gathering baseline information right now as we speak. You can go on to purpleair.com, type in Mount Shasta and zoom in. You'll see we have 5 that we've bought and paid for with the community's help. And we have 1 at the fire station. That makes 6 total. So we've got the area really well covered. And that's all I get because I have to.
Miyoshi from the Winnemem Wintu tribe.
Hi everybody. I really want to thank Geneva and Raven for giving a good update on the lawsuit, the Crystal Geyser lawsuits. My name is Mark Miyoshi. I'm a member of the Winnemem Wintu tribe, and I'm also the tribal preservation officer for the tribe. The tribe, the Winnemem Wintu tribe, the name means middle water people. So for the tribe, any water issue within our traditional territory in the area around the mountain is extremely important to the tribe. And the tribe is the indigenous tribe that was here at point of contact. And this spring here in the city park, that is a sacred spring for the tribe, and the park is actually a village site for the tribe. So this issue is really close to our hearts. And the tribe is a traditional tribe. We carry on our traditional beliefs, we carry on our traditional ceremonies, we do our prayers, and we speak to the spirits of this land. This is Winnemem territory. These are Winnemem spirits that our people have spoken with, conferred with for thousands of years here. So that's why we have, we've become involved with these issues, and in particular the water issues here. Early on in the Crystal Geysers issue, we became involved. We worked with Raven and Bob Blankenship on the well monitoring program, and then we also been involved. We were actually one of the founding members of the RWAG, the Regional Water Action Group, and so wherever we can, we want to have an influence on water issues. My wife, Luisa Navejas, and myself, we're the ones who live here. We're the only ones in the tribe who live up here. So we look after the area as best we can, our sacred sites, and then we're the ones involved with the lawsuits and the issues with agencies, around water and around other issues too, general issues. So, and when we heard about what was happening with Crystal Geyser and what they were trying to do, the tribe, all of the tribe felt like that we had to become involved, and it was really our chief, Colleen Sisk, she did give us that directive, to become involved because it is so important to us. These, all of the springs on Mount Shasta, we consider as sacred springs, where we can go and talk to the water, talk to the spirits. We have dances and songs that we dance and sing, for the water here, for the water that supports us, that upholds us. And so when someone is threatening to take so much, an unlimited amount of water out of the ground, that water is where all of the springs on Mount Shasta, they rise from that groundwater. So, and that water itself is a spirit that the tribe recognizes, acknowledges. We have old stories from long ago where that spirit of that water has come and talked to us to tell us about our responsibilities for this land, for this water, for all the nations, here in this traditional territory. So, that's why we're involved. It is so important to who we are as a tribe and as individuals. How we carry ourselves in this world, and we have to be able to carry ourselves, knowing that we're protecting these spirits. And this is a way we can do that directly, through AB 52, through this lawsuit that we're doing. AB 52 is unusual. It's a new amendment to CEQA. It was passed in 2014 and became effective 2015. But the great thing about AB 52 is that it explicitly recognizes that the values that a tribe holds for a sacred place should be recognized in a CEQA EIR review. So that means that, and it defines a whole new category of resources that should be recognized and acknowledged and protected. So tribal cultural resources is the name they give it, is on par with the air, the water, and all of the other things that are studied and reviewed in an EIR. And so, I have to look at my notes a little. And the important thing is that the values that the tribe holds for a sacred place or a traditional resource, that should be considered, that by law, that should be considered in the review of an EIR. And for the tribe, we have a lot of values for water. And really a lot of those values are the same values that all people hold, because we know that no one can live without water. There's no one who can live without water. We can live without oil, but we can't live without water. And I know all of you, probably because you're here, you have a similar value. You have
2
similar
minutes.
things.
Here.
Oh, okay, you're giving a signal. So, anyway, I
You can't say that AB means Assembly Bill.
right, Assembly Bill 52, and gee, I got a lot of things to say, but maybe Luisa, do you have anything that you want to mention right off that would be important?
Well, we are involved in other AB 52s. How many do you have going right now?
Half a dozen at least, maybe more.
Yeah. So each one has to do with a traditional cultural resource. Shasta Dam raise, they already drowned out our villages one time, and then this would be the second onslaught of our culture. The first time, they drowned all of our villages. And our men were coming home from the war, and when they got home, they couldn't see their home because the whole village, the whole town, Copper City and some other towns that's now under Shasta Lake Reservoir were not there anymore. So those things for that particular Shasta Dam raise has to take into account the effects that happened at the first dam raise and then what the second dam raise will do. So if anybody wants to get involved in any of our issues, we do have, well, actually, we have several things that we're involved with. We're also involved with bringing back our salmon. We did a war dance at the dam when they first raised the dam. They stopped our fish coming up, so we went and we did a war dance for the salmon. The Associated Press covered that particular dance, and then we got notice from New Zealand that said, from the Maori people, that said, you need to come here, we have your fish. We learned that the hatchery that used to be there when the dam came in, it stopped being there, that they send our fish out all around the world. And they didn't make anywhere else but in New Zealand. So 18 of us got to go over there, and I was one of the privileged ones that got to go over there. And we have then bonded with the Maoris and bringing our fish back because of the tsunamis that they have coming in. They wanted assurance that their fish would be somewhere else in the world. So they really wanted to come home. And so they have come over here to help us with the Bureau of Reclamation and with some of the other fish agencies. We've had some genetic testing done. The Bureau of Investigation gave us money to do that genetic testing, and so we've gone back a couple times since then, and they've come here. So it's just, I'm just giving one example, one huge example of some of the things that we're involved with. But if you go onto our website, you can find some of the other things that we're involved with too. And you can really help out with this Crystal Geyser or the Shasta Dam raise, or come to our Run for Salmon and walk, run, boat, and then come to our ceremony at McLeod Bridge Campground. We do an Indian ceremony which everybody's invited, and we feed you, and we dance for you, and we sing for you.
Thank you.
Mark and Louisa. Okay, the next speaker will be Diane Lowe from the McCloud Springs Alliance. And to the speakers, just we don't have microphones here. There is a large crowd. There's people way in the back, so speak up.
Do your best.
Do your best to project.
Okay.
My name is Diane Lo, and I have a little hoarse voice, so I've arranged with Raven, who is a great speaker, to come and finish this if I don't make it through. So I'm happy to have an opportunity to speak. I am also a board member of the Water Organization and resident of McLeod. Because we are focusing on water tonight, I'd like to give you guys a few short comments about the 3 spring water sources that we have in McLeod. And then the new proposal for a water bottling facility there that isn't going too well, and offer some suggestions that may be done in McLeod. McLeod has a historical right to use the water from the 3 springs to provide it for the community and for the Squaw Creek watershed with cold, pure water, and to maintain water pipelines to come down from the 3 springs to our water tank. We are blessed in McLeod because the lumber company in McLeod dedicated the rights of this spring water to the citizens of McLeod in the early 90s. The citizens are represented by an organization called the McLeod Community Services District. Even though we have been given this right to use the water, this right has brought numerous water purveyors into our community, explaining great deals and dividing our community, even now and over the course of the last bumpy 16 years. About our springs in McLeod, Intake Spring is located a little over 3 miles north of the town in a picturesque old-growth forest. It's beautiful. On Forest Service land in the Shasta Trinity National Forest. The MCSD has a permit from the Forest Service to operate and maintain this spring, the historical spring house and the pipeline to carry spring water to the water tank for McLeod's community use. Climate conditions greatly affect this spring, known as Intake Spring, and spring water flows have been much lower during the recent drought years. This water does not see the light of day until we turn on our faucets. The other 2 springs, Upper and Lower Elk, are in the Mud Creek drainage, piped to the MCSD water tank as necessary, with the runoff stored in an old water tank and small concrete reservoir for firefighting, and the remainder flows to Squaw Creek. There is a required amount to flow into Squaw Creek at this time. For the Elk Springs, they are a completely different geology than the Intake Spring. They are in a contain volcanic subsurface lava tubes, creating fragile, unknown infrastructure, which can be, if it's disrupted or drilled, It has been said it could cause the spring water to disappear, as has happened with nearby springs west of town. Historically, if these were the two springs the town folks relied on, as intake seems to be on the radar of the water purveyors, the town water supply could be vulnerable. The Mud Creek drainage has been subject to major mud flows, you guys probably all know that, presumably caused by glacial melt or melt below the glaciers in 2 of the last 5 summers, which came within feet of one of our spring water lines and close to Lower Elk Springs. So I have mentioned our water sources, which continue in the sightline of corporate interests. First, it was Nestle 16 years ago. An important bit of advice at the outset of the 6 years it took us to understand more about the entirety of the Nestle project was offered from a fellow in Stockton, California. Ironically, his name is Dr. Dale Stocking. His advice was go to every public meeting. And I suggest that for all who are concerned about public policy and decisions involving our natural resources, that they do the same. And we did. We took a leadership part as concerned McLeod citizens to get Nestle to leave town and plans for a large bottling plant in the country, largest bottling plant in the country. We had a member, Betsy, who transcribed countless public meetings, which turns out is the only way to understand some of these issues. And it helped in creation of legal cases. Kicking Nestle out of town, at least temporarily, was an effort thanks to individuals, many of you here, like MESBEC, organizations, the Tribe, many lawyers, and finally even the California Attorney General's office with concerns to the county about the draft EIR. And we continue to work to protect the source water in McLeod's 3 springs. With public records requests, we've obtained key spring flow data for the last 16 years and requested public records concerning the development of this new spring water bottling effort. So what is happening now? With the Community Services District has wasted countless years trying to sell water for no money, and the cost to the community is rising. In August 2015, the Board of Directors voted 4-1 to sell 200 gallons of water per minute from the intake springs, our most valuable water, for water bottling based on environmental review of this project. The purchaser is a non-customer called the McCloud Artisans Spring Water Company, LLC. Prior to this agreement, as background, this is what happened, because truly I find it almost amusing how these things happen. In 2015, a quirky fellow arrived in McCloud, claiming his partner loved water and that he simply wanted to do something good for McCloud. He did say he knew our former manager, Pete Campa. He described himself as sort of a Renaissance man, creating theme parks and attempting to develop a goat slaughterhouse near Reno and Susanville. He was followed by a fellow named John Anderson, who has since attended several meetings in McCloud and who was giving the so-called podium or floor for an entire public works meeting in February of 2015. Sadly, this is the only time the public met with John Anderson of the Artisans to ask questions about his proposed bottling project. And the board members were so scared of violating the Brown Act, they didn't attend. They all could have, but are not allowed to ask questions during committee meetings. So this is what we rely on, a board who was not informed about what John Anderson's plans were. So, how many?
3.
Okay, so I'm not going to finish, but so what were some of the comments? I'll go quickly. He said he wasn't worried about using single-use plastics. They plan to bulk water transport. During the meeting, he said that transporting water out of the country would depend on international demand. One of the things that he said that caught my eye was, one reason they want to do this project is because it's green. It's green everywhere. Throughout the marketplace, it is green and healthy. We like that. And the money that the bottlers were making in 2015 in the US ranged from between $12 and $15 billion a year. So the Artisans are made up of 3 builders from the Sacramento region. They have constructed dollar stores here. The intent, once the permits are obtained to this project, is to market this project, as these 3 have admitted to no bottling experience. Getting the permits will, however, be quite challenging. Multiple permits will be required from the county. A tentative rezone, approval of the proposed site from Timberland Preserve Zone to MH Heavy Industrial. Woodland productivity removal would require county general plan change amendment. Annexation, development agreements, wastewater permits, and water and sewer connections are also huge. You guys probably know so much about this project already, but we're selling it. The proposal was to sell water for 2 cents a gallon. It will be hauled out on Hall Road, which has become a very nice, beautiful residential road. There are plans to take some of this water out from the very outset of this project. There is no known, we do not know where this water is going to go. The notice of preparation was issued, and thanks to many organizations and people, it has been responded to, and the draft EIR, it's now been a year and 6 months, has not been produced. Likely, the project is lagging, and likely will require a 4th amendment to keep it going. The project agreement is set to expire on 12/31 of this year. And one of the recommendations I find is that it's very important to attend MCSD meetings if indeed the water bottling plant is on the agenda. Not only may it be the Artisans asking for another amendment, but there are sort of rumors that the name is changing and that they are trying to market this agreement that the district gave to them. We need to work on, are you done? Okay. We need to work on,
1 minute.
okay, groundwater amendments, and in McLeod, the spring water amendments, the bulk water transport of spring water. If we could even get a bottling, spring ordinance to prevent water bottling and single-use plastics from our region or from our county, and we could do the same in McLeod. We have water ordinances in McLeod. So, and to sum it up, we have a gem of a town, we have a gem of resources, and I just thank everybody for being so interested in caring of them.
Here we go.
Our next speaker will be Bob Hall from the Water for Citizens of Weed, California.
Are you going to be able to do both?
Yes.
Nice group. First of all, I'd like to thank Water for putting this event on, and I think it's time for the citizens of Weed to really thank the citizens of Mount Shasta for supporting us through this. Yes. Because I think we'll start, and then I'll back up. Let's start off. We started in just with matter of fact, Vicki Gold. Vicki Gold is someone who through the beginning stages of our program. She stepped up and gave us the guidance through the basic things of just starting a protest on Main Street of Weed. We were simply out there with our signs. We had no idea what we were going to do, but we knew there was an injustice happening. And most of the people that came to our protest were from Mount Shasta that understood what the protest is. And I'll get to this later. But let me back up. In 1909, the water was originally adjudicated to the Weed Lumber Company. And basically it was just a ditch that went through the area where people were starting to build homes. And in 1932, there was things become a little more sophisticated. People had indoor plumbing, and it was adjudicated to, at that time, the wasn't the Weed, it was, excuse me, Longbell, excuse me, thank you. It was adjudicated to Longbell for domestic municipal uses within the township of Weed, and also for industrial and agricultural uses. And that's basic, I think everybody probably understands, but the basic determination is in priority. Domestic municipal uses being, obviously we need this, as the gentleman was saying, we need this to survive, to live. But then in 1961, the town was incorporated. At this time, everything was owned by the city, by the Longvale Lumber Company, and they sold in 1956 to International Paper. International Paper came in, they became part of the community, they just became people within the community. And so in 1961, the town was incorporated, and we, from there, at that time, 4 of the 5 members of the city council, the very first city council, were employees of International Paper. And also, there was at this time, even in the entire area, I was born and raised in McLeod, the entire area was lived by the belief that you don't go against the company. You never say anything against the company. I call it a company town mentality. And we all suffered from this. But there was a trust there. So in 1966, the city of We signed a lease, 50-year lease for $1 a year for the water out of Omann Springs, 2.0 cubic feet per second. And that was signed, and nobody was going to take the water. It was going to be fair. Basically, the 1-year lease, the $1 a year lease was for trade-off for water to the plant and the sewer and fire protection. So the city would provide that, in the company was basically, they were providing the water. Well, in 1982, International Paper left town. We lost 750 jobs within 2 months. Boom. I mean, heavy duty. And at the same time, McLeod was preparing for what was going to happen over there, and was to execute the entire area. And for you, the people that weren't here, it was dramatic. I mean, we're talking about union scale jobs. We're not talking about minimum wage, union scale jobs. Everybody depended on this. So anyway, in 1982, in 1983, the state at that time said that the water had declared that the water was the city of Weeds. Okay, because when International Paper left, they gave the water to the city of Weed. But in 1996, Crystal Geyser came to town, came to the city, said, "Hey, the state says you have this water. We'd like to lease it from you." Obviously, the city, after losing that many jobs, says, "Hey, you're going to create jobs. Hey, we're in." So, so they started planning this out, working this out with the city, and then all of a sudden, Roseburg comes and says, "No, we have a 50-year lease on this property. We have a lease you had signed by the city." And so this is 1996, and the lease was going to be up in 2016. So the city did not take much action on this. They kind of said, "Well, okay, it must be," because they couldn't find any paperwork on this. Matter of fact, under Bohan Creek in Sacramento, there was no paperwork. There was no additions to it. So anyway, everything was kind of forgotten. Until at that time, Roseburg started selling water to Crystal Geyser, and everything was happening. So in 2011, 2008, I got on the city, became on the city council, and we started trying to negotiate. Roseburg said, "We're not going to lease it to you. We're not going to sell it to you. You're off of it. We want you off of it." And we continued trying to work something out. And finally, it was then we started our protest, and we're trying to get the council to make the decision on what they were to fight for this, and we were basically shot down. The city decided to sign a lease, a yearly lease at $97,500 a year. So we had to increase. If it was $1 a year, now we're talking about $97,500. But it was also, this lease was also set up that we were going to find alternative water source. Now the city had made this decision. So then in 2016, a letter appeared. It actually came from Howard Neal, who was the research director for International Paper. It came out of his garage. Howard Neal also became the head engineer for Roseburg when they took over. And we found this in 2016. So my point is that the people in Roseburg knew that this existed. This isn't about being a something that was a misunderstanding. No, they know. They know. But so if we created enough, start gathering information enough that looked like we could fight for it, the city decided that we'll ask the Shasta Scott Valley Water District to take a look at this, to review it. And as soon as the next day, we were sued. We were sued by Roseburg. Very next day, 9 of us were sued for saying that the water wasn't Roseburg's. We didn't say the water was ours. We were sued because we said the water wasn't theirs, and we had proof for it. So life changed for us drastically. I don't want to get too much into that, but all I can tell you is thank God for pro bono. Pro bono. Jim Wheaton, it's a long story. Jim Wheaton out of the Bay Area had heard our story and came to our rescue and basically said, hey, we got it, guys. And at that time, we thought, okay, we had a great relief, but we didn't understand how lucky we were. We had no idea, because we were about at that point of this whole process to say, we're backing on. What are we going to say? We're going to have to shut up. In our country, in this democracy, we were going to have to say we couldn't say any more. But we had some defense, took care of that little number. We went to the California Utilities, what are they? CPC. Yeah, Utilities Commission. And they heard our story and it was compelling. They said, well, obviously it's not, but this being obvious leads us to every place we went to, we were supported, but nobody could take any action. But now the city was in suit. Okay, the city had been sued. So I want to finish this up real quick down to where we are right now with the city. We're actually looking at, we can't stay in court. We cannot afford to fight. We're in that, and it's not just us. This is happening all over the country right now. There's no the justice isn't there. You have to have the legal support or funding to handle that. I'm going to real quick. We have some young people here, and I want to make sure that the young people understand that what's going on here. They say the water that's coming out of the mountain is 50 years old. And I've lived there my entire life. I tell you what, the water in that mountain is less and less and less and less. The snow is less and less and less. 50 years from now, there's going to be, the water is not going to be as consistent as right now. The other thing is that what is this water doing to the mountain? Is this water cooling the lava? What if it's cooling the lava? What if we take the water, that water that's being taken out, that these people want to definitely come in and pump as much as they can out, what if it closes off the lava tube and that water that we're depending on isn't there anymore? What if it initiates an eruption? These are things we need to find out. And I think another key thing we really need to do is understand, like we have the Shasta Scott Valley Water District over. We need to form a process to influence this board to do the right thing, or we have to come up with some other to understand what's going on. Because right now, our board over here, you have to be a water holder to be on that board. So you're on your water holder, you have a conflict of interest. You can't make a decision on anybody else's. So no decisions are being made with this with our water board over here. So there's a lot of things that I'd like to say, but more than anything, what we want to say is thank you again. Thank you for caring.
Thank you, Bob.
Last presenter will be Michelle Berditschevsky from the Mount Shasta Bioregional Ecology Center.
Nice to see so many familiar faces here. Thank you all, and thank you to Water and all you water warriors. around the mountain and in our region. Can we have just a little bit of just a little bit. So Medicine Lake Highlands is about 30 miles northeast of Mount Shasta. And we have a slide that shows. Could you speak up just a little bit? Yes, I'll try.
Thank you.
I don't have a loud voice. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. So Medicine Lake Highlands is another cascade volcano. It's a shield volcano with a caldera and a lake in it. It's a very mysterious landscape and very, very sacred to the tribes in our region. All 5 local tribes, the Pit River, the Wintu, the Shasta, the Modoc, and the Karuk, and also to more distant tribes, as the ethnographic studies identified. And this mysterious landscape is remote, and as a result, a lot of the process happened under the radar. The notifications were not sent to places like Mount Shasta, they were sent to Doris or Tennant. And so we didn't know what was happening until the mid-90s, actually. But I want to talk a little bit about the landscape first, and its importance for water for California, not only for Redding, but also some of the water on the west side of the Medicine Lake Highlands very likely feeds the McCloud River. And these water studies have not been done. A lot of study needs to happen to really know what's going on with the 20 to 40 million acre feet that Medicine Lake Highlands stores. The water emerges at the Fall River Springs, the largest spring system in California and one of the largest in the United States. And this water is also very old, 20 to 40 years old, actually. And the Medicine Lake Highlands stores more water than all the surface aquifers in California combined. So it's this huge storage system. And I just want to read this quote from a study done by Gary Freeman. I believe he did this for PG&E because PG&E benefits from the water from the Medicine Lake Highlands for their dams and their hydroelectric production. But anyway, he found that the volcanic aquifers of Medicine Lake volcano that flow by gravity alone into California's water resource system provide an enormous free reservoir of pristine drinking water. I mean, nothing happens up there in the Medicine Lake Highlands. No freeways, no trains, no factories. It is so pure up there, and the water that emerges in the Fall River Springs is as pure as it gets. And Medicine Lake is a giant catchment system. This caldera captures the water, and huge amounts of snowfall and precipitation, rainfall. And this storage system of lava tubes, ice caves, aquifers, all these emerge and bring over 1 million acre feet a year through the Fall River Springs. So when the EISs came out, we'll get into the history a little later, but when the EISs came out, we saw that there was very little about the impacts on water of geothermal development. And we commissioned a study by Dr. Robert Curry. We worked with him for almost 10 years, and he did a lot of research to find that the evidence actually did exist that Medicine Lake volcano is connected to the Fall River Springs, and none of this was mentioned in the EISs. So we can go on a little further here. geothermal development drills over 9,000 feet, almost 2 miles down through the freshwater aquifer into the deep geothermal soup, really. The geothermal aquifer consists of a lot of dissolved minerals and other substances, elements like arsenic, hydrogen sulfide, things that Mother Nature, in her wisdom, kept deep in the earth. And this would be dredged up and could cause pollution, would cause pollution. And also it's a very seismic area, so these wells are at risk of breakage in any seismic. Also, geothermal development actually induces seismicity. So what could possibly go wrong with this perfect system, right? It's totally insane to mess with the system because it's so important for California, for the Fall River, the Pitt River, the fishery at the Fall River, the McCloud River, we're quite sure, and it really has to be protected. So as a result, we hold the record for longevity. We've been at this for 22 years. And we is a coalition, besides the Ecology Center, the Pitt River Tribe, the Native Coalition for Medicine Lake Highlands Defense, which has representatives from a number of tribes, and Medicine Lake Citizens for Quality Environment, the homeowners, the cabin owners near Medicine Lake. And we also have been working with a larger alliance, which is interested in the water protection of the Medicine Lake Highlands for the state of California. So we've been working with some statewide groups and national groups like NRDC, Center for Biological Diversity, Clean Water Action, and Earth Island Institute, a number of those groups. And if we do a big campaign, they will be there supporting. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the campaigns. Let's go to the PowerPoint.
3 minutes, Michelle.
3 minutes?
3 minutes.
So the history goes back to the 70s when the whole Medicine Lake Highlands was designated a KGRA, a known geothermal resource area by USGS. You can go to the next slide, please. And so the leases were awarded, covering 143,000 acres. That's the word. And we, in the mid-90s, we finally learned that geothermal industry had its claims on Medicine Lake volcano. And I want to say why we should be concerned in Mount Shasta. Another reason, we are holding off the geothermal industry at Medicine Lake Highlands. They also have designs on Mount Shasta, 240 megawatts, that's about 5 power plants, could get their claws into Mount Shasta if we lose at Medicine Lake Highlands. But we're not going to lose because we've had 2 significant victories, one in the Ninth Circuit Court in 2006, and one in 2010 in the U.S. District Court, which BLM just appealed to the Ninth Circuit, and we had this appeal hearing up in Seattle. 3 van loads of Pitt River people came up to Seattle, and a number of supporters were in the courtroom. The hearing went very well, but just like Waters' hearing, we won't know the decision for 2 or 3 months.
1 minute.
Okay. As far as future actions go, we have a petition. We have and we're working very closely with Stanford Environmental Law Clinic. I want to echo Bob's comment. Thank goodness for pro bono. Stanford Clinic has been with us this whole time. defending us in court and also working on some of these proactive directions, like the Forest Plan Amendment petition that we're working on now. And we will need support for that petition once it's given to the Forest Service. And so we invite you, please, to add your name to our mailing list or give us your email, because we will need a lot of letters of support why the Forest Service should create stronger protection, because these are federal lands. And we also want to get the state of California involved with the Forest Service, pressuring them to create stronger protections to protect the aquifer, which is so important to California. So I think I'm down to about 10 seconds, and I just want to say thank you to everyone for your attention. Thank you for your support all these years.
Thank you.